Joining me now is Ezra Klein, of Washington Post columnist and MSNBC political analyst, and Ryan Grimm, Washington bureau chief for the Huffington Post. Thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Ezra, why are the tax returns so threatening to Romney?
We don't know. We don't know until we get 2009. What you heard in the Obama campaign ad there, and something a lot of people have begun talking about, is there some possibility that either in 2008 or 2009, Mitt Romney did not pay any effective federal taxes at all, that he had losses due to the financial crisis, that it wiped out his tax liability. I asked a bunch of tax experts about that. They said they don't think that's very likely because he's got a certain amount of income that doesn't get wiped out by losses, but it's entirely plausible he paid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5%, or even just 7%, a number that is low enough that it is very problematic. And the second thing that's also plausible is that he had some level of sheltering that when you actually put it down on paper, when you explain what it is to people, it is just going to be deeply embarrassing and problematic for his campaign. But so with all of that there, I do think the underlying question here is why, knowing that he was going to run for president again, and after he turned in 26 years of taxes to John McCain, so he knew taxes were an issue, why did he not clean these up in 2008? Why was this a problem for him at all?
Well, Ryan, when he turned in all of these pages to the McCain campaign, the top strategist for McCain, John Smith, told the Huffington Post that the tax returns were not what kept Romney from being VP in 2008. He said, quote, "We never sat around having a discussion about Mitt Romney's taxes, but wealth was an issue." He says, quote, "We knew it would be a big liability that the presidential and vice presidential candidates together own more than a dozen homes." It was something like out of Saturday Night Live or Saturday Night Live skit. But meanwhile, with talk of his vice presidential choices reaching fever pitch, I wonder, Ryan, is Mr. Romney going to ask his vice presidential candidate to give him his tax returns?
Well, the New York Times reported that he is, in fact, asking for tax returns from the people that he's vetting for vice president, and that's the exact same thing that he and the Senate will do of anybody that he wants to name to any significant cabinet position, even insignificant cabinet positions that have to go through the Senate. So there's certainly a bunch of different standards.
But wait a minute, Ryan, I don't want to go through that too quickly. He will not release his to the public, but he is asking for the tax returns of those that he's considering to be a vice presidential candidate. So he's asking for what he will not give the public.
There are a ton of things that we don't know here, and one thing that we don't know is how many years of tax returns he's asking from his vice presidential prospects. We can assume it's a lot of years because anybody who's going to do a significant vet of somebody is going to want to see a lot of the years. So, but until he's more forthright about what he's asking for and what he's willing to give, we're all just feeling in the dark here.
Now, Ezra, you mentioned his offshore accounts, and Romney gave pretty weak defense about his offshore accounts today. He told the National Review, quote, "Well, first of all of my investments are managed in a blind trust by virtue that the decisions made by the trustee are the decisions that determine where the investments are." And, of course, we already know one of the investments went to his son. I mean, there's some pretty interesting investments that this trustee made that just happens to be very close to Mr. Romney.
I think the underlying issue here for Romney is he looks at this issue. He looks at these questions people are lobbing at him, and he says, I did nothing wrong here. I did nothing illegal. I did what all of my friends did. I put my assets into a blind trust. I stayed within the letter of the law. Nobody's saying I should go to jail over it. I did nothing wrong. And what I think a lot of voters are looking at, a lot of people just looking at this issue are saying, the rules you play by are not the rules that normal people play by. And so he's sort of fitting into this larger discussion going on to America, I think, about the rules that the very rich end up playing by that help them remain rich and help the top 1% pull so far away from everyone in recent years. And it's not that these things are illegal. It's not that they are even necessarily morally wrong. We set up the tax code. Mitt Romney's accountants are paid to do a good job protecting his money from the tax code. That's not crazy, but Mitt Romney's become a walking, talking embodiment of the set of advantages that accrue to to the top 1%. And then when you add in his policy platform, which is very large tax cuts for the rich, paid for by very large cuts to social spending on the poor, you have a double problem, because it seems like he wants to make those rules even more biased in favor of him and folks like him who have the accountants who figure out how to get your money offshore in order to get you the best deal from the tax man.
Yeah, well, it's like last night saying that the waiters and waitresses that were serving his people that could give up to $50,000 are having a rough year. So in order to help him out, he wants to give a tax cuts to the guys that can write the $50,000 check, and the taxes hike up for the waitresses and waiters, or at least they don't get a tax cut. But, Ryan, you have some interesting new details about the timeline of Romney's departure from Bain. Tell us about it.
Right. This is another area where we've kind of been feeling around in the dark, because Romney won't really release any significant details about what specifically he did with Bain Capital between 1999 and the end of 2002 when he was elected governor of Massachusetts. But you know, he has said that he retroactively retired and had nothing to do with them in any way after February of 1999. Right. But it's just a huge stack of evidence has emerged that that is simply false. We have him testifying in June 2002 that he was attending board meetings for companies affiliated with Bain. We have six documents with his signature on them that he filed with the SEC. And now, Reverend, remember, this is 2001, 2002, when everybody was thinking about Enron. No CEO at that time was signing documents and filing them with the SEC that he wasn't certain were accurate. So, you know, the idea that he would just, oh, hey, here's an SEC doc, can you quick sign this and fax it back? That's
in the middle
insane.
of Enron, a very good point.
In the middle of Enron, that's insane. And so either he's crazy and reckless, or you know, he spent a lot of time going over this documents like any other responsible CEO would do. They were talking about real jail time for people and real fines for people who signed documents that turned out to be false. And so, you know, CEOs have come forward and said, yeah, especially during the Enron time, I was making all of my employees who worked on those documents attest to their accuracy and their validity. And it's just unfathomable that it would come to him and he would just dash off his signature and then go back to organizing the Olympics.
Very interesting. Well, I'm going to have to leave it there, but we're certainly going to keep watching this. Ryan Grimm and Ezra Klein, thank you for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you.
Coming up, Dick Cheney.